is Manhattan, Kansas Bigfoot
This is the high class Bigfoot.
because he's from Manhattan?
That's why I say high class Manhattan. Come on.
But I mean, you
He's
could,
stepping out.
it could be just like a dump, and then they just name it Manhattan. What if they like a sewage plant they called Manhattan? Would you all of a
high
sudden?
class sewage plant?
So anything named Manhattan is high
Hey, you're
class.
stepping out if you're in Manhattan.
There's no doubt about that. So there's this Bigfoot is walking out from behind a tree
And we were talking about the effects of pollution
on Bigfoot and humans.
and humans. Well, in Kansas, they're in close proximity to the human population. They might be more affected by the pollution there.
Kansas, though, is not like a big industrial area, is it? It's more agricultural.
Well, I mean, there's agricultural pollution.
How does fracking affect Bigfoot? That's another situation.
That's interesting you say that. I mean, it's affecting everybody. There's a lot of chemicals being pumped into the ground. Maybe that's going into the groundwater. Bigfoot's affected by the groundwater.
Now, we were talking about human DNA and maybe animal DNA being affected by diesel fumes.
You, in particular, were talking about diesel fumes changing human DNA.
Yes, changing human DNA. Now, if then you were talking about living near a freeway and how that,
And then I was talking about all of the tire tread that you don't even think about that's on the freeway, and all the dust that's kicked up from vehicles going in excess of 80 or 90 miles an hour.
And then I was talking about that if you live far away from the freeway, that would still make it into the air eventually, or is a certain
when there's
stopping
a lot
point.
of heavy winds,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're not just because you live near a freeway doesn't necessarily.
So now, when it rains, if it rains, does all that get washed into the ocean? Does all that go into the food we eat from the sea?
Yeah, and it's not like a Republican or Democrat or left or right. That's everybody's problem. I mean,
that's every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's driving down the highway, flicking a cigarette butt out of their car, ends up in the ocean and in the fish you eat.
And because pollution can affect your hormonal system. So if you're a guy, you don't want to have lower testosterone levels or have estrogen screw up your system.
Could it be giving people higher testosterone?
I've never heard that. I've heard just the opposite. I've heard that
really, it's always affecting you in a negative way.
It might affect. Well, sometimes there's drugs that have masculinization effects in women and feminizing effects in men.
So basically, pollution is feminizing our country.
That's why we're in such a mess. No, I mean it's something. Well, for example, like steroids. This is going off topic. For example,
this is really going off topic.
But when bodybuilders,
you have experience with steroids?
No, I've never taken steroids. And it's something maybe you should do when you're 70 or whatever. But I just don't see screwing up with your hormones because when you're younger.
Alex Rodriguez might differ.
Okay, if you've got a career that's dependent on it, go for it. But even then, you got to. If they're tested, you're going to have problems. You could have problems. But I'm sure there's ways to
beat those tests.
Beat the test, but a lot of people they're finding, especially with bodybuilders, having heart attacks at young ages and dying.
Bigfoot has a high amount of testosterone.
Well, I'm sure of
natural testosterone.
Yes, natural testosterone. So that would be interesting. If
nice to break down his DNA.
Yeah, but let's talk about that Natalie and Todd Disotell. Let's do another episode because they talked about how you can get DNA from scat.
Well, they had that on $10 Million Bounty.
I know, but
they were eating the scat. That's how they got the DNA.
Yeah. Now I like to see that guy, that Mohawk guy, see if that alters his DNA.